Today, my topic that I will talk about is called bacteriophage or phage. Phages or bacteriophages are the most abundant organisms on this planet and the most deadly, killing millions right in front of our eyes every day. Phages are pretty much a type of virus, not quite alive and not quite dead, just like most viruses. There are more phages on this planet than any other organism combined, and that includes other microorganisms like bacteria. They are literally everywhere, on your hands, on your face, and you cannot get rid of them. They are the most omnipresent species on Earth. They are everywhere on Earth, even more omnipresent than bacteria, and they have the highest kill count of any species on Earth. They are the number one deadliest species on the planet. So, if they're everywhere, and they are the deadliest things on Earth, why aren't all of us gone? Simple. It only hunts bacteria. Phages are viruses that hunt a certain group of bacteria of their choosing. For example, the lambda phage attacks E. coli, and other types of phages attack other types of bacteria. And as a bonus, there are no recorded cases of phages hunting humans, so luckily we are safe. The way the phages are structured is sort of what you'd see in a science fiction movie. Phages commonly have an icosahedron head, a shape with 20 faces, and it has an elongated tail that the icosahedron lays on the tail. The icosahedron itself contains DNA. This is called a capsid. This DNA is what it uses, it's its source code. And under the tail, there are spikes. Spikes is what it uses to inject the DNA. I'll get there in a moment. And it has fiber legs, which allows it to move from place to place. There are many different types of phages, but this is just the basic version. Most phages are around 24 to 200 nanometers in length. The way they work is surprisingly simple. They seek out their preferred prey, like a mini heat-seeking missile, but instead of heat, they seek out a certain bacteria, and then they use their fiber legs to attach themselves to the bacteria. And then, with their needle-like appendage, known as the spike, they inject the bacteria, and in a sort of squeezing-like motion, they empty their DNA, which was in the capsid, through the tail into the bacteria. This means that the bacteria is now officially infected. This infects the bacteria so that it uses all of the energy and resources that it gets, and it's devoted to entirely one thing, making more phages, and so that it propagates a cycle of phages hunting bacteria and bacteria making more phages. This is carried out by the fact that with all the resources that the bacteria gets and all the phages that are inside of it, the pressure builds up inside of that bacteria. And with the pressure that builds up, the bacteria burst out of their host, and the cycle propagates. This is almost how other viruses like the flu or Ebola work. They infect a host and the host cell/organism, and then this spreads the virus or phage or whatever you want to call it along. Phages, in addition to being the most deadly organism, might also be the most important. Why? Let me explain. Since 1928, the discovery of penicillin, people have been using antibiotics for fighting and killing bacteria. And as of recently, we have been using antibiotics to fight fewer and less severe strains of bacteria. This in and of itself is not a problem, but bacteria can evolve, and eventually, through the process of natural selection, the bacteria that had resistance to the antibiotics would survive and propagate the gene of having resistance to a certain antibiotic. And to make matters worse, bacteria can confer resistance or transfer resistance to other bacteria that don't have resistance. This is very, very bad. Now, we have a bunch of bacteria that are resistant to a certain antibiotic because we used it too much. Now, imagine this applying to every single bacteria out there, all of them resistant to every single antibiotic. This is currently what is happening right now. More and more bacteria are getting resistant to our weapons. We have ourselves backed into a corner. Now, how do phages fit into this picture? Well, phages are hunters of bacteria, and they may be able to kill the bacteria that are now resistant to our weapons. And since the phages are technically living organisms, they can evolve too, just like the bacteria, saving us from our doom. Now, what if the bacteria evolve to become resistant to phages? That may seem bad, but it is not so, because in order for bacteria to evolve resistant to phages, they must lose their resistance to antibiotics. This means that we have a shot at eradicating our worst killers, bacteria. However, pharma companies are not exactly jumping at the chance to use phages in their medicine. This is because it has not had official approval yet. So, this may change in the future, saving us from the horrors of bacteria.